A few reasons why John Lawrence should stop targeting the already harassed journalist Amy Fenton. Firstly, Ellie Williams's family have already expressed their disapproval of him and his views. They've disavowed him. They don't want him associated with the Justice for Ellie campaign, nor do they want him at protests. If he carries on targeting Amy Fenton, folks may well think he's doing it on behalf of or at the behest of a supporter of Justice for Ellie. It's not going to look good on the Justice for Ellie campaign. It's already really odd that a man from Oldham is having pops at a journalist up in Cumbria. Secondly, although Mr. Lawrence said he does not condone violence, he's used really unfortunate turns of phrases when talking about Miss Fenton. Keep in mind this is already in the backdrop of her being in a safe house due to credible threats against her and her family. He's using phrases like these.
So, I'm just saying, Craig, there's stuff coming out about Amy Fenton. I'm not saying any more than that because it's active stuff. And when we can say something, we will come out and say it. But mind you, she's digging her own grave, and she's digging it even harder now. So the media are our enemy. Amy Fenton, her days are numbered, pal. Her days are numbered. Her days are absolutely numbered, I tell you. Absolutely numbered. So yeah, there's a bit of a take on a couple of things. Amy Fenton, your time is coming, girl. Your time is coming. You've been caught out. You're digging your own grave faster than I don't know, faster than whatever. But you are digging your own grave, girl.
Such phrases will not inspire confidence in people related to Miss Fenton when all they'll do is just view Mr. Lawrence with greater suspicion. Talking about being perceived suspiciously and being perceived as a threat. Thirdly, Mr. Lawrence has been accused of bullying his ex-partner Arlene and pushing her down a flight of stairs. He denies all this, but Miss Fenton is not to know whether this is true or not, right? Thus making Mr. Lawrence appear more of a bothersome figure. Fourthly, Miss Fenton is rightly reporting online harassment to the police. Recently, a 19-year-old lady was cautioned by the police for exactly that. Mr. Lawrence could be risking a visit by the police. He's got to be careful. Fifthly, there's no link between Miss Fenton and Mr. Lawrence. As far as we're aware, she's never reported on Mr. Lawrence. Sure, Miss Fenton has published facts about the charges Miss Williams, Ellie Williams, is on, but that's no crime, right? That's what local reporters are meant to be doing. This lends credence to the idea Mr. Lawrence is targeting Miss Fenton due to a conspiratorial mindset.
So, the media are our enemy. Amy Fenton, her days are numbered, pal. Her days are numbered.
In my mind, this lends credence to the idea that Mr. Lawrence is conducting this campaign against Miss Fenton due to a conspiratorial mindset. Sixthly, I suspect Mr. Lawrence may have learning difficulties or he may be experiencing mental health problems, thus he's not really in the best position to process information, possibly meaning that he's targeting Miss Fenton out of a conspiratorial mindset. This conspiratorial mindset has been evidenced by his persistent claims around a drink driver who crashed into 3 teenage boys in Hayes. According to Mr. Lawrence, this was a deliberate act on the part of the driver, which the media and the police have conspired to cover up. This despite all the copious evidence contradicting his conspiracy. In relation to Miss Fenton, perhaps he believes in a conspiracy theory which dictates that Miss Fenton and the rest of the media are working in cahoots with the police and the establishment to cover up grooming gangs in Barrow. Lastly, I want to zone in on this idea of poor discernment. Mr. Lawrence has connections to various unsavoury characters including Billy Charlton, Danny Tomo, who was convicted for attempted kidnap, as well as EDL folks. So Mr. Lawrence is not picking the best company, right? Again, an indication of poor choices in life, that's going to contribute to Mr. Lawrence being perceived as a threat by people in and around Miss Fenton. Right now, Mr. Lawrence is asking for donations on Facebook. He's asking for cash so he can go to Dover for a couple of weeks to help out against the migrant crossers. His presence in Dover will not do anything in terms of preventing migrant crossers. He's got no ability or power to stop it. Rather than wasting people's money, and I've got to stress other people's money and his time, if he's so opposed to migrant crossers, why doesn't he not try and do something that could potentially have an impact, rather than him going to Dover for 2 weeks just twiddling his thumbs? He could write letters to Parliament expressing his disapproval and dissatisfaction in the way the government are handling it, letting them know in no uncertain terms that he wants this to be stopped. Is poor discernment to ask for others to pay your way, to ask them to contribute towards your costs so you can go to Dover, which whilst you're in Dover it's going to impact your self-employed work negatively, and that's all for absolutely nothing. You're not going to achieve anything in Dover, are you? So in sum, what we're seeing here is somebody who has a conspiratorial mindset, who's a poor decision maker with unsavoury associations, whilst having allegations of domestic violence hanging over his head concerning his ex-girlfriend, who's using unfortunate turns of phrases when addressing and persistently targeting a British journalist online, a journalist who is already on edge due to credible threats against her being. It doesn't look good for Mr. Lawrence. If anybody knows him, you need to advise him with grace to try and turn to a different course of action, because what he's doing right now is not looking good on him, and it's not helping anybody at all. It's certainly not helping anybody in Barrow. It's not helping Jason McCullough. It's not helping Justice for Ellie. It's not helping anybody. You're not achieving anything, Mr. Lawrence. I'd also add, we've said it before, if it was a bunch of Muslims doing this, all these so-called patriots would be up in arms, but for some reason Amy Fenton, a British journalist, can be targeted by this man and a bunch of others and nothing's being said about it. Like I say, some folk only really care about British women when they can make it about Muslims or immigrants.